family. I hope you all had a great weekend and a great week, and I hope you're finishing up all your work for all your classes this week. So keep at it. There's a couple things I want to talk about. The first thing was your discussion boards. You brought up great ideas. You looked at really good things that maybe aren't necessarily the most common to come to mind, but one of you mentioned the Messiah story as far as before Jesus Christ became the Messiah. He wasn't considered a Messiah, only by a select few. He wasn't the Messiah that the Jewish people were looking for. He didn't fit their mold, and so he wasn't considered one. And we see this with the boy as well. The boy is not considered a Messiah by everyone, but the old man and his father, the man, definitely believe him to be in some way a Messiah. Now, it could just have to do with the fact that children are rare in this time, it seems. And children oftentimes are considered very hopeful ideas, the start of a new generation, the start of new life. That could be it, or it could be more that they think he is single-handedly going to help change the world. So we have this really good idea there that was brought up. You guys brought up really good ideas across the board. One thing you want to remember, and I know someone mentioned this, and I think it's something that we don't think about in our culture because Christian ideas are so wrapped up in our culture. We are not a Christian nation. However, literature has often used Jesus and Christian imagery for its work, and we see this a lot in Western European and American culture, and so we see this idea of Jesus in a lot of things. But we have to remember other religions have messiahs. The Messiah story is not just specific to Jesus Christ and Christianity. So it might be worth, if you ever want to explore this topic more, to look at other types of messiahs, and do they follow the exact same sort of story that this Messiah does. So you want to look at that. But overall, I really enjoyed your posts this week. I thought they were strong. I thought they were good. I want to talk about your papers. I want to first start with things I really liked. You guys picked great themes. Fantastic themes. I saw themes that ranged from appearance versus reality to courage to love to so many other things that I think can make pretty strong papers. So I want you to develop those as you write, which of course is the purpose. You also picked really good literary devices to use. Archetypes, the hero's journey, which, by the way, if you're dealing with the hero's journey, you might want to consider looking at the heroine's journey. Remember, Campbell's hero's journey was written before we had a lot of female leads that followed that sort of journey in novels. Before women had a ton of rights. So it makes sense if we're going to look at men and boys as heroes. And while that's still the dominant thing today, we do have a lot of female heroes. So there was this other type of journey developed called the heroine's journey, which in essence follows the same thing as the hero's journey. However, there's a few other parts of it that relate more directly to a more emotional sort of journey. And not that men cannot experience this journey, and not that all women experience this kind, but it does give us another idea. There's this, not just the rough and tumble, it deals also with the intellectual and emotional journey. So, not that you have to use it, but I think it's worth considering. A quick Google will find it. I'll see if I can find you guys a good link to it. Some of the wording gets a little bit weird in some of the links. The archetypes, I saw setting and conflict. All of these things are really good. They'll really help to strengthen your paper. A couple of things I saw that were problematic were, and some of these are hard, like a lot of the working theses, the theses for your paper. A lot of them were great working theses, which means you can write a paper based off that thesis. It will probably need to be fixed and changed at the end, and theses, once you write them down, are not written in stone. They can be changed and altered. So you want to make sure that you kind of make sure you do that. But some of them seem to have some trouble. A thesis statement is built off of a few points. The first one is, find what interests you. Does the fact that Peeta has more feminine qualities and Katniss has more masculine qualities interest you? Is the fact that the father gives up everything knowing he will die to not help the boy, but he does it out of love, does that interest you? Does the fact that Amy Dunn in Gone Girl creates all of these treasure hunts for anniversaries, is there something about that that interests you? A little bit more than, wow, I really like this idea. But we know Nick does not like these. Does he have a point? Do we see some of Amy's true side with those, or or is Nick just being out of control? So we see these things in books. Find what interests you, because you're not going to write about something if you're not at all interested, or it won't be a very strong paper if you're not at all interested. So do that. Then, in this particular paper, we have the theme. So we have our what answered. We have the what do we find interesting, and what is it? We find this scene interesting, and it talks about survival, or it talks about appearance. Then what we need to do is look at the why. Why is this important? If we're looking at survival in both the Hunger Games and The Road, why is that important? What does that do? Why do we care about this theme? Why are both authors exploring this theme? Are they exploring it the same way? And do their opinions match, or are they different? Why is this such a big idea to talk about? Why should we care? So you're writing a paper about survival. Why do we care? Well, we care because people start surviving from an early age. Children, people who don't have homes, people who are on their own, people when they get to college, people when they start living on their own. Then there's the serious survivals, where people lose their home and they need to figure out how to live. There's survival in other countries where there are regimes practicing that can cause them to die at any time. There are so many different types of survival. Maybe that's why it's important. So I want you to look at these. I want you to figure out the why. Sometimes if you don't have the why right away, you'll probably have it by the end of the paper, because after you talk about the historical significance and the commercial success, you'll probably get to the, aha, this is why this is important. Look at how it relates to our current or recent history. So definitely work on those. I think your commercial success ideas were great, but I need them to be a little more specific. Just telling me that a book sold 5.2 billion copies does not mean that we should study it and care about it. It just means it was popular. But we're writing about, let's say, the theme of survival. How did the theme of survival increase the popularity of these two novels? How did the theme of love increase the popularity of these two novels? So look at the theme in specific relation to the popularity, not just, see, this book sold a lot of tickets to movies and it sold a lot of novels, this is popular. That doesn't tell us anything. Make it stronger. What I want to spend a little bit of time on before I let you guys go is historical significance. This is a hard one, and I totally understand that. Because we're like, well, it's written in modern day, especially like Gone Girl. It's written in modern day. It's what we live. Why is this historically significant? When we talk about historical significance, we want to look at things that might have formed this book. Now, the author might not have put it in intrinsically, or rather, they might not have put it in consciously, but it might have just happened subconsciously. So we definitely see 9/11 in The Road and the Hunger Games. The world changed. America changed. The idea of safety for a lot of Americans changed. We rebuilt, and it didn't stop our world, but that's a big deal. With Gone Girl, the economic collapse happened, and that leads to a lot of their trouble. The economic collapse happened. They lost their jobs. They're forced to move to a much rural area. They don't have as much income. Everything they knew changed because the economy collapsed. That's important. So that might be useful. Bringing up the war with the Hunger Games might be useful. With The Road, the ozone, the way we're polluting the ozone, we're bound to end up in a situation that's problematic for our survival. And also with the Hunger Games, a few of you mentioned the Minotaur story, which Collins mentioned that she used. That's great. That's a great thing. It is a piece of history. A few of you mentioned gladiatorial games, which is definitely brought in there. So you want to look at these things. How does this book relate to culture? Guys, as you write, I look forward to reading your rough drafts this week. Make sure you read the first half of Gone Girl. Okay? I will talk with you soon.